Hello and welcome back to the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. I'm Sinead and this week we're going to have a look around the new Kia EV6, another hugely anticipated entry to the EV sphere, which is growing by the day. And to be honest, I don't think it's ever been a more exciting time to be shopping for an electric car because they just keep getting better and better. The evidence of which is right behind me because I think this one might just be the best I've seen so far. If that's all you need to know, you can find details of your local Kia dealer on CarsIreland.ie and put your name down on what is no doubt going to be a very long list. But if you'd like to know a bit more, then just keep watching.
Proud sponsors of the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. Untitled.ie, for car history data you can trust. Buying a used car? Get an exclusive coupon code now. See the comment section for more details.
So with Hyundai and Kia being sister companies, so to speak, there are a lot of similarities here to the recently released Ioniq 5. But while they might share a platform, they've both gone down two very different routes when it comes to style and design. So while Hyundai went for that very angular Blade Runner sort of look with that very cool retro vibe, Kia have taken what I would say is a slightly safer approach here. Not that it's in any ways boring, in fact it's got fantastic road presence and it's a lot bigger and chunkier in the metal than what you might see on screen. But it also looks a bit more like what you might expect an electric Kia to look like in 2021. And to be honest, I'm a bit torn personally over which one I prefer. I mean, I do love that boldness to the Hyundai design, but I'm already wondering how well it's going to age. Then again, I'm not so keen on the rear of this one. But of course, that's a matter of personal taste, and we would love to know which one you prefer in the comment section below. So once you find the boot lid release, somewhere here, there we go, you will find an impressive 520 litres of boot space. Now that's not quite as big as the Ioniq 5, which pips it by about 10 litres or so, or indeed the Skoda Enyaq, which is considerably bigger at 580 litres. But still, 520 is a good figure and probably about average for a modern SUV these days. Now, whether this counts as an SUV or not is probably a debate for another day. Now, what I will say about this boot is that a lot of that capacity does seem to be in the width rather than the depth. And if you're someone who needs to carry buggies or prams around, then you'll know that it's the depth that can make all the difference. And I did struggle to close this boot around my admittedly quite bulky travel system. And because the boot is electric, it kept getting to a certain point and then pinging back open. But after taking it apart, I did get it in eventually, but it was a bit like a game of Jenga that I didn't want to play. So long story short, make sure that what needs to fit, fits first. If that's not an issue, it's a very well finished boot. You've got no load lip, a couple of shopping bag hooks, quick release for the back seats, and a handy compartment to store your charging cables. Or alternatively, you might like to store them in the front boot or the fruit, whatever you want to call it, because there is some extra storage up there too. But I think I would leave them where they are here because this is where your charging port is. How's that for a nice piece of integrated design? The back seats are hugely spacious, and that's width-wise, headroom-wise, legroom-wise. I'm 167 centimetres for reference. That's my driving position, and as you can see, I've got more legroom than I know what to do with, as would someone a good deal taller than me. There's no transmission tunnel, which is good news for legroom for your middle seat passenger, and the ISOFIX anchors are nice and accessible. Now, there's no guides, but they do come out nice and far so that you can slot them in quite easily. There's also plenty of space for them as well, which means that you won't have to interfere with your passenger seat, even if you've got one of those quite bulky rear-facing or 360-degree models. Now the windows are a little bit on the small side, which looks great from the outside, but isn't quite so nice when you're back here because it is a little bit dark. But on the plus side, the creature comforts are really quite impressive. You've got a pull-down centre armrest complete with cup holders, heated seats back here, you've got some very sturdy magazine holders, and I was just about to complain about the lack of USB charging back here until I spotted them integrated into the driver and passenger seat, and you've got one on each side too, which will hopefully save a few arguments. The interior styling in the Kia is a lot louder than what's in the Ioniq 5, and again I think this is going to come down to personal preference, but I also think that this interior is going to impress pretty much anyone who sits into it. Now, fair enough, it's a little bit shouty, but shouty in a good way. Shouty in a way that a €50,000 car should be. And we'll talk more about price shortly. But this is just really funky. It's all angled towards the driver. You've got some cool perforated leather along the dashboard and lots of purple downlighting. I mean, who doesn't love purple downlighting, especially when you're driving at night? Very Ryan Gosling and Drive vibes about it. It's also very functional. I mean, you've got logical storage where you want it, a couple of cup holders here, some more storage in the center console, some more again under the center console here. You've got a selection of charging options. You've got your mini USB and your normal USB, and two more here. You've got a 12-volt charging socket as well. A good mix of functionality between the touchscreen and these kind of quasi buttons down here, which are also kind of screen, but they're always in the same place, so you know where to find them. That impressive dual screen setup, I just love it. So as I just mentioned, this is a €50,000 car here in Ireland. That is the minimum price you'll pay for the entry-level Earth model, and that's after current government grants are taken into account for private customers. And then €55,000 for this GT line model, again after government grants. And that does come with a few very nice upgrades, which I will talk about now in a second. But the reason for that high entry price is that Kia have decided to only bring the long range version here. So there won't be a shorter range version available as with the Ioniq 5. Instead, both the Earth and the GT line model will be powered by a 77 kilowatt hour battery capable of over 500 kilometers on a single charge. In fact, it's even more on the Earth model because this GT line model is on a very nice set of 20-inch alloy wheels. It also gets a few other very nice upgrades like these suede and vegan ventilated heated seats. You've got a head-up display, a panoramic glass sunroof, and possibly one of my favorite features of the car, which is a camera-assisted 360-degree blind spot monitoring system, which shows you via a little panel in the instrument cluster here where the action is happening. So if you're pulling in tight to a curb, you've got a bird's eye view of that curb right here in your eye line, and I think it's just genius. In fact, I've christened it Curb No More. So if Kia Ireland would like to trademark that, you know where to find me. But honestly, I think it's just one of the most useful and original new features on a car that I've seen in quite some time. So I suppose the big question is, do you really need the GT line? And it is quite a hard one because the Earth model is well and truly exceptionally well equipped. It's the exact same powertrain. These dual screens are standard, as is Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You've got vegan leather relaxation seats, which allow you to lie back and relax while you're taking a charge. Arguably more comfortable 19-inch alloy wheels, loads of safety gear, and even the electric tailgate. So do you need the GT line? Probably not. Are you still going to want it? Probably yeah. So 77 kilowatt hour battery, 506 kilometer range on this GT model, and rear wheel drive only. So there's no choice of powertrain whatsoever at the moment. So it's a good job that this is a very good one. Power output is equivalent to about 230 HP, which is slightly more powerful than Ioniq 5, although I have to say it doesn't feel hugely quicker. Like the ID4, like the Enyaq, this is a big and heavy car, over 2 tons. In fact, it's got quite a large battery pack to carry around, and it's just a large car in general. Now on the flip side, you get a 500 kilometer range and all that space to play around with. So them's the brakes. Just don't be expecting Tesla acceleration is what I'm trying to say. At the same time, it's by no means slow, and I think particularly people who have not driven an EV4 are still going to be pretty wowed. It still gives you that great confidence for overtaking and really widens the selection of gaps that you can slip into in traffic or at a roundabout. And it can do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.3 seconds, so again, by no means slow. It also handles really nicely. Now, as I said, it's a big old unit, so it's not fun in the traditional sense of the word that makes you want to fling it around corners or anything like that. Instead, it's more of a grown-up EV feel. The suspension setup is spot on. It makes nice, smooth work out of most road surfaces, and it just feels like a really well-judged, well-balanced setup. The steering is a little bit on the light side, which won't be to everybody's taste, but it does weight up at motorway speeds, and there is also different driving modes to choose from, which will change the feel depending on the circumstance. So there's eco mode if you want to conserve battery. the eco brake mode. Now I do have to say it does make the drive feel a little bit on the sludgy side, but then again you might be glad of it if for any reason you find yourself suffering from range anxiety in this car. But with the range on this car, I really don't think you ever should. Sport mode does serve to liven things up considerably. You get a bit more response from the throttle, and yeah, it just really goes the way electric cars do. Now I will say there is a slight degree of sameness starting to creep into this end of the market, the larger, newer EVs. But where this does stand out for me, I think, are in the driver assisting features, which, as I mentioned, are just really good. There's that blind spot monitoring one that I mentioned earlier, which is excellent. The heads-up display is really nicely done as well. It's quite subtle. And then, yeah, just the general ease of use of the infotainment system, the flow and vibe of the cabin, for me, still makes it stand out from a behind-the-wheel perspective. Charging speeds are also impressive. Now most people will be charging it overnight from their 7 kilowatt-hour home wall box, which will require an overnight charge, but that is the limit of the charger and not the car, because the car itself can go from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes if you find the right fast charger. In conclusion, I stand by what I said at the very start, in that this is one of the most complete and impressive electric cars that I've seen so far. But I say so far because that crown has been passed on at least twice this year already, in my mind anyway, and electric cars are just getting so good. So good, in fact, that I've got to the end of this review without even mentioning Kia's remarkable 7-year warranty, which also covers their electric range. And the good news for this one is that there doesn't seem to be any talk of a shortage in supply for next year, providing, of course, you can get your name down for one this side of Christmas. If you'd like to do that, you can find details of your local Kia dealer on CarsIreland.ie. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you might like to hit subscribe so that you can see more like it, in which case, I'll see you next week.